What words come to mind when you hear the name of the actress Grace Kelly? Timeless beauty, elegance, grace itself, mystery, and perhaps tragedy. Welcome to History Graveyard as we travel to the French Riviera and the country of Monaco to explore the life and death of Grace Kelly, one of the greatest actresses in Hollywood history. Her story as a princess began and ended in this stunning cathedral fronting the Mediterranean coast above the Rock of Monaco. With storm clouds above, we're looking at the Riviera, the Mediterranean Sea here in Monaco. As you turn off the beautiful coastline, you'll see a stunning cathedral, also known as the Prince's Palace, just steps away from the Prince's Castle and living quarters here in Monaco. This cathedral is the final resting ground of the famous Princess Grace of Monaco, who was Princess of Monaco from 1956 to her tragic death in a car accident in 1982. And after her death in 1982, she died one day after this car accident as she was driving her daughter off to college, to the train station to let her go to college in Paris. And they drove off a cliff. She was the driver of the vehicle. Tragically, she died the next day. There were thousands who attended her funeral. And that funeral and her wedding were both held in this church, which you can see. I'm not going to film in the church, as there is no talking allowed in the church. But this church has a beautiful view of the Mediterranean. And again, it is the final resting ground. I'll show you her grave momentarily in images. Although that second act of the Grace Kelly story was notable for its pageantry and philanthropy, Act 1 of her life was the part that most fans perhaps better remember. Her rapid rise from a child of a wealthy Philadelphia family living in one of that city's better neighborhoods to one of Hollywood's biggest starlets. Born just weeks after the Black Tuesday crash that started the Great Depression, Grace Kelly was the third of three children born to three-time Olympic rowing gold medalist John Kelly and his wife Margaret, who was the first women's athletic director at the University of Pennsylvania. The Kellys avoided the economic woes of the Great Depression as the family's brickwork business escaped the downturn relatively unscathed during a time when millions worldwide suffered. At age 18, Grace enrolled in the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, where she began to cultivate her acting talents in a program that has mentored more than 100 Academy Award nominations among its alumni. While living in New York City, she became a successful model and then a television actress, while becoming closer to her uncle George Kelly, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of the 1925 play Craig's Wife. In fact, it was this connection that likely earned her the admission into the Academy after initially being told there were no openings left for potential new students. Kelly only made 11 films, not including documentaries, during her relatively short acting career, starting with a small role in the 1951 film 14 Hours, and ending 5 years later with the releases of The Swan and High Society, shortly before and after her royal wedding in April 1956. During that 5-year window, the actress, still in her early 20s, was able to work with such famous directors as Henry Hathaway, Fred Zimmerman, John Ford, George Seaton, Mark Robson, Charles Vidor, Charles Walters, and of course, 3 different films with Alfred Hitchcock. She quickly became one of Golden Hollywood's most important leading ladies, working alongside Clark Gable, William Holden, Jimmy Stewart, Bing Crosby, Gary Cooper, Frank Sinatra, Alec Guinness, Cary Grant, and others. A quick montage of her film career reflected an actress who could display a complete range of emotions on screen, ranging from anger to playfulness to glamour to adventure, all while displaying the peak of elegance and beauty. She won the Best Actress Academy Award for her performance alongside Crosby in the 1954 film The Country Girl, a year after her nomination for Best Supporting Actress in Mogambo. But in the midst of a career that was cementing her reputation as both a box office draw and actress capable of almost any type of role, she walked away from Hollywood to begin a second career as a princess. While attending the 1955 Cannes Film Festival on the French Riviera, in a year that saw The Country Girl in competition, she took a highly publicized side trip to meet the Bachelor Prince Rainier of Monaco at his royal palace. Traveling some of the same roads that she drove in the Hitchcock film To Catch a Thief, her trip to Monaco was not without its difficulties, including weather concerns and then a small fender bender that would tragically foreshadow her death decades later. Ultimately, she did meet the prince on May 6, 1955. Kelly continued to date other men after that initial meeting. She had been engaged a couple of times before finally getting married, but she began a secret correspondence with the prince, which would lead to a second meeting in Philadelphia in the fall. She was also filming one of her last movies at the time, The Swan, a story which also had her playing the same kind of role, a young, free-spirited blonde woman being wooed by a prince. The real-life romance proceeded at a breakneck speed, with an official announcement of their engagement made to the world on January 5th, 1956. Everything about the quick engagement and royal wedding was headline news, including the 2 engagement rings she received from the prince, the more famous emerald-cut diamond ring with a 10.48 carat diamond worth an estimated $4 million in 1956, and probably closer to over $40 million today. The 2-day wedding between Princess Grace and Prince Rainier took place beginning on April 18, 1956, with a civil ceremony in the Monaco Royal Palace, and then a religious ceremony the next day at the St. Nicholas Cathedral, shown earlier in this video. The first of the couple's 3 children, Princess Caroline, was born on January 25, 1957, with the current reigning prince, Prince Albert II, born on March 14, 1958, and their final daughter, Princess Stephanie, born on February 1, 1965. Rumors of potential Hollywood reunions would pop up now and then over the coming decades, but Princess Grace led a relatively subdued life of royal functions and philanthropy before tragically dominating the headlines again in September 1982 with her death. That sad conclusion to her life story took place when she was just 52 years old, with much of the specific events revolving the car crash that would claim her life shrouded in mystery at the time, and some of the basic facts still questioned decades later. What is known is that Grace Kelly and her youngest daughter, Stephanie, were driving from their country estate in Rocagel to a train station in Monaco, where Stephanie was to catch a train to Paris, where she was going to start attending a fashion institute. Driving down some of the dangerous winding roads very familiar to residents of the Riviera, and past the same picnic area that she and Cary Grant had captured on celluloid in To Catch a Thief, their Rover vehicle veered off the road down a mountainside about 150 feet before flipping over a couple of times and coming to a rest on some rocks. There were many questions about the accident, about who was driving and what may have led to the crash, but ultimately it was determined that Grace, never known as the best driver, was behind the wheel of the vehicle, and she may have suffered a brief stroke before losing control of the car. Princess Stephanie had minor injuries, but Grace had suffered potential brain damage while losing consciousness. Rushed to the Monaco hospital named after her back in 1958, she was later taken across Monte Carlo to the only CAT scan machine in the area. Unfortunately, she was taken off life support less than 24 hours later, officially dying on September 14th, 1982. Her funeral took place at St. Nicholas Cathedral, where a tombstone marks her final resting place near the front altar, next to her husband, Prince Rainier, who would die more than 2 decades later at the age of 81 in 2005. There is so much more that could be said or shown about Grace Kelly's meteoric rise and tragic ending, but I hope this brief video has helped shine some light on her amazing life. Please remember to subscribe to History Graveyard for more biographical videos on important figures as this site continues to visit cemeteries and profile individuals who deserve to be recognized. Thanks for watching.